Hello and welcome to You Roll a 1. In our last episode, our characters managed to get back to Seafall after rescuing the Greenleaf family, although their barn was burned down along with the home. They heard consistent war drums along the road as they were chased into town. Soon after, goblins and a mix of Ravenshield halberdiers laid siege to Seafall, the small walls providing little comfort to those in the town. Though it feels like there should be excitement, almost every day is the same. Wake up, eat breakfast, mostly onions. Talk to someone. Wait. Eat lunch, mostly onions. Talk to someone else. Go to bed. Repeat. The days soon turn to weeks, the weeks turn to months. And that's now where we find Manx, inside the Church of Mara, tending the wounded. Inside the 2-story building of stone, sickness and the smell of death are ever present. At 40 feet long, beds still pack the halls, with more than 75 wounded souls from the battle at Vardant Hollow. Manx continues up and down the rows, patching bandages, applying gauze, and doing what he can to save these soldiers. Manx is not alone. There are a number of others who have joined him to help those wounded in the church, led by Freya Stormrider, a 12-year-old daughter of Cedric Stormrider. During one of his endless rounds, Manx walks down the church lined of wounded and sees a Grimoire Greenleaf, who he recognizes hobbling up and down on crutches after splinting a broken leg.
You're up and walking, my boy.
Hello, Minx. Well, I don't know if you'd call this walking. Hobbling more like, I think. But I am getting stronger every day. I can walk nearly to the end and back of the church. 2 more weeks, and I think I'll be right as rain. Thank you for taking care of me, Minx.
I want to do a medicine check just to see if that's true and if there's any permanent damage that will be done. So that was a 23.
Some of this is true. You do think he's probably rushing it a little bit to try and get back to everything that he wants to do, but it does seem like he is making good progress, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be permanent problems. He probably won't ever be able to sprint in the same way that he did before, but it looks like the bones have set and knitted pretty well, and it looks like he's going to be just as strong as ever. He just probably won't ever manage to make it to the Olympics for high jump.
I'm gonna kneel down, look at his leg, and say, I think you'll be in fine fighting form in no time, lad. And not a moment too soon. We need good, strong, able-bodied men for the walls. I'm excited to see your recovery coming along so well.
He kind of claps you on the shoulder a little over-enthusiastically.
Ha! Don't you worry, Minx. My brother Tobias has never lost anything his entire life, and he's not going to start now with this rabble goblins. Although it will be nice to stand next to him again in combat.
Well, make sure that you take care of yourself. They say that a single candle can light 1,000 others without extinguishing its own flame, but you have to make sure that your flame burns hot.
That's an interesting thought, Manx. Here, come sit with me a while if you can. My leg's getting tired and I need to sit.
And he kind of hobbles back to his cot and sits down.
You knew my father briefly, didn't you, Manx? The vegetable farmer, Elias Greenleaf?
I did. He was the first citizen of Seafall that I really met. Yeah, he was a very kind and a jovial man. He gave me a lift into town on his cart and gave me the best bunch of carrots I've ever eaten in my life. He was a good man, your father.
It's strange, you know. It doesn't really feel like he's gone. The last few months before all of this mess, Tobias and I were in town doing our apprenticeship with Axel for stonemasonry, helping rebuild the walls. We often stayed here, so we didn't see our father all that much. It just feels like another one of those nights, that tomorrow we're going to fix the walls. It's still strange to me to think I won't ever see him again. I still think of going back at the end of this to the farm and seeing my father and my mother and all of my sisters, even bringing Tobias back with me. Then again, come to think about it, there's nothing to go back to. You were the one that went and brought my sisters back inside the walls, weren't you? They say the farmhouse is burned to the ground now.
Yes, I think that your family has suffered enough loss between your farm and your father, but reminds me of the changing tides we look out over the ocean that Seafall is named for, and we see the changing tides and things wash ashore, and we forget sometimes that there's not such a dissimilar parity in the land where farms and families come and go and we get washed up in it sometimes. And you and your family would do well to ride out some of these tides.
I'm not exactly sure where to ride the tides out, Manx. The farm is gone, Dad's gone. That was my inheritance. I was supposed to take over the farm. Although I'm not a particularly good farmer, if you've ever met my brother, you'd know in a heartbeat that he was not destined to stay on the farm, and is destined instead for greater and other things. My sisters were happy there, but we always assumed that they would end up in town or perhaps another farm village. It was me who was going to keep that farm, and now there is no farm. I'm not a really great farmer, and I'm wondering whether or not it makes sense to rebuild the farm once this is all over, or even if we get out of it alive.
You'd better hold fast and not worry too much about the future right now, my boy. I don't like the look of the yellow banners on the horizon, but let's say we make our miraculous escape and break this siege. What is it that you would want to do? You say you're not a good farmer, but you could do that. You could help your family rebuild. You were fixing the gatehouse. Maybe carpentry or blacksmithing is more your trade.
I guess, Manx, I'm just feeling a little lost. How did you get to Seafall? How do you know where to point your ship?
Mine's a darker tale than most, lad. I spent a lot of time around the church, and I didn't have a great upbringing except for one mortician that brought me in, and he showed me how to perform the burial rites and how to dress bodies, and he was a very interesting man, but there were more foul things in that part of the world than I would like to speak of here and now. I fear that some of those things still lurk nearby, and I've found my faith in Mara and doing my very best to just do good work, show love and compassion, and lend a hand to those around me has given me some respite from some of the evils of the world and the dark things that lurk in its corners.
I used to come to this church as a boy, and I would listen to the old preacher Rashid give his sermons. We didn't come every week, but we came more often than not. His sermons were dry as an old fart. If I'm being honest, I spent more time asleep in these pews than I did paying attention to anything that was said. I never really understood Mara. I never felt her presence as a boy growing up. I always figured that was because we were farmers and didn't make our living on the ocean the way many do here. But when we were in Varden Hollow that night, it felt like Mara was with us. I could feel her presence for the first time. When we burst through the gate at Varden Hollow, I felt invincible. I felt Mara's presence. My brother was next to me, cutting down goblins left and right, and it felt like we could do this forever, that nothing could ever touch us. But then a carriage burst through and separated us, and I found myself with 5 other local boys fending off goblins from all sides. And that's where one of those big bear warriors attacked, those big savage brutes. You know what I'm talking about? That look like big brown bears, but move like goblins?
Those monstrosities. We also had the fortune of meeting them.
Well, he tore into me and the other boys, damn near cut one of them clean in half. And, well, the 3 remaining fled, and I realized, kind of in a panic, that we were on the edge of the line, and if we fled, that monstrosity would have clear access into the side of our local boys. So I planted my shield and hefted my spear, and it felt like Mara was with me, that it was my time. I didn't think I could kill this brute, but I figured I might buy us enough time for some of those professional tide guard to get over and protect the flank of the rest of the locals. And so I dipped when he swung and I dodged when he lunged, just to delay him long enough to get help to this side of the flank. But the whole time, it felt like Mara was guiding me, like I could tell he was going to swing high so I could duck, or jump when I knew he was swinging low. It was like Mara was telling me his every move before he made it to keep me safe. Eventually, I felt her presence fade, and then it was gone entirely. And eventually, his greatsword smashed my shield, pushed me to the ground, and broke my leg. But then, just as he was raising his sword for the killing blow, my brother found me and plunged his own spear into the creature's head from behind. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to be here, but I can't help but wonder, why did Mara save me rather than Sven right next to me, who was cut down by that bear warrior? I slept through these church ceremonies, and he probably didn't. Why was I saved when he was cut down? It makes no sense, Manx. It's puzzling me.
Well, Grimoire, it's difficult for me to understand the teachings in the faith as well. And perhaps, just perhaps, that could be all the more reason for you to listen to me, because I feel as though there are many out there who somehow hear the whispers of the gods when they sleep. They see the divine writings on the wall, and it all seems too easy. And I'll tell you that I've never heard Mara's voice. I don't see grand visions when I dream, but I think that makes it more special. You have to look just beyond the horizon through your looking glass, or you have to look under the glittering shimmer of the waves as they come in, and you'll find that the gods are always just a little out of reach, but that doesn't mean that the miraculous can't happen, and it doesn't mean that undercurrents and their influences aren't seen. As you say, what is the power of a deity? If it's not glorious, then maybe it's just enough of a push so that glory can be attained. Like you, holding off that bear, that monstrosity, just long enough so that your brother could steal the real glory. But we all know that without your work, without the machinations of the divine, no glory, no victory, no reality can be achieved.
Manx, when I was lying upon the ground, leg broken, with that monstrosity hovering over me, it should have been the end. But it didn't feel like it was the end. In fact, strange words popped into my head. Mara's waves carry the souls to her coral halls for the starfish to feed. Have you heard that phrase before? Is it something in the scriptures of Mara?
I'm gonna give you a religion check to see if this is like a poem or something that I've heard of or learned. Oh my god. Nat 1.
You know that they are words that seem to be sacred to Mara, but you've never heard of them being used in this context, or you can't explain how somebody who isn't necessarily particularly religious would know them. It would kind of be like a psalm that you would find in the Bible, but it's not super common, so you don't really understand how any of that is connected. You just know that they're kind of religious sayings.
Well, that sounds like Mara. Maybe you are destined for greatness after all, my boy, and maybe, just maybe, you'll turn into a far better priest and a far better healer than I could ever hope to match. I wish that for you.
A priest, you say, Manx? Well, I never thought of that. But I guess the Church of Mara is a much bigger home than my old farmhouse.
You can trade the dusty cellar for your dusty library and bury yourself amongst the books and the higher mysteries. I tease, of course, as I think, what are we here for if not to study those mysteries?
Well, Manx, thank you for speaking with me. I have to say I don't feel any less lost, but it does feel like the seas of fate are a little less chaotic now.
Oh, no. He has bardic inspiration now. And that last 10 minutes of conversation, I will have been using my inspiring leader to give him 6 extra hit points. So I'm sure he's feeling a little more robust.
He does manage to struggle to his feet and does put some weight on his leg. Still a long way to recovery, 100%, but you can see some color in his cheeks as he goes to practice walking.
I'm sure you're busy to do your rounds, but if you get a chance, do come back. I like talking with you. It's awfully dreary in this church, and I hope I can get out of here soon.
I certainly will, my boy, and feel free to come and find me. I hope that leg gets better soon so that the next time we chat, you can find me and we can walk down by the ocean and look upon all of Mara's glory. But I do want you to feel better and know that you'll always be a true friend, and I will help you in any way that I can. And I cast Cure Light Wounds on his leg. So hopefully now it's feeling really good.
If I may be so bold to ask, Manx, do try and keep an eye on my sisters. I'm sure that when the time comes, Tobias will be in the thick of combat, as he always is. And if this leg gets better in time, I suspect I will be too, although probably not with the same flourish and style as him.
You don't give yourself enough credit, my boy.
Well, be that as it may, Manx. Just keep an eye on my sisters and my mother for me, in case the worst were to happen.
The Greenleaf family will always be under my protection, as best I can offer it.
He ambles off in a broken walk, putting as much weight as he can on his leg with each step until he can feel it wince, and then lifts off, actively trying to improve the quality of his leg.
I love it.
We shift now to Axel, who's been asked to go and discuss with Garrick new weapons, javelins, spears specifically, and when they'll be delivered, ready for training for troops.
Oh, hello there, Axel. Are you coming to visit me in my old blacksmith shop?
He looks up to see you, but looks down immediately and continues to bang away on what looks like a short stabbing sword.
Garrick, I know you're very busy, but I've been sent to ask of your abilities. First and foremost, I'd like to ask you to maybe sharpen my bec de Corben and maybe make the javelins a bit shorter per Niktor's request. I know this sounds strange, but the monk has precarious ways of fighting, and the shorter javelins they'll improve their travel speed, so I'm told. So he asked me to relay that to you.
It seems to me like Niktor doesn't understand the javelins that he's got. You see, he's been just using them over there on the range in practice. Doesn't understand some of the features I've added here. Come on over here, Axel. Let me show you what I've included.
He stops hammering the short sword and plunges it into a nearby bucket of water with a hiss, and gestures you over to racks and racks and racks of javelins. They're probably 4 feet long, which is a little longer than what you would necessarily be expecting. But the first thing that stands out to you is the fact that about 18 inches of the tip of the javelin looks like a long iron bar. When you pick one up, the weight is very heavily towards the front.
Now you see, a normal javelin's mostly wood. You've got a little bit of metal in the tip and about maybe a quarter of the way down the shaft. But it's a pretty balanced utensil. The problem, of course, is if you chuck them all over the wall at the goblins, well, then they'll just pick them up and chuck them right back at us. You see a problem, Axel?
That's true. It makes sense.
So my idea is if you take one of these here javelins and you instead swap the tip for a longer, softer metal tip, when you chuck them at the goblins and they hit anything of any substance, that end will bend. And then it means that you can't chuck them back at us because they're all lopsided, you see.
Well, it's ingenious, Garrick. I appreciate that. You're quite the professional.
I thought it was a pretty good idea, but if I shorten it, like Niktor was asking, your balance is going to be even more off and you're going to lose a heck of a lot of range. So go back and tell Niktor, fuck off, and he can learn to use these javelins so that he doesn't get 'em coming the other way.
I might not relay that one-to-one, but yeah, I get the gist. And yeah, you're quite ingenious with a weapon, so I'm not anyone to argue.
Yeah, you know, back in Hammerfall Mines, there's a lot of smiths, so you gotta do something to stand out. Now, that was, of course, never my problem. Your old boy Garrick had no problem standing out. There was other issues there, but I had a couple of good ideas up my sleeve.
Yeah, Garrick, I'm not one to argue with the weaponsmith is profound and as skilled as you are, so I'll let Niktor push rocks.
How'd you get to Seafall, Axel? Anybody who's worth their salt isn't born here, and you seem to be a relatively competent fighter, so it means you're not from here either. So how'd you wind up in Seafall?
I'm not originally from Seafall. Me and my family, we helped build the lighthouse, and I've kind of been a traveling mason of sorts. Me and my brother Flark were supposed to restore the lighthouse, and he went AWOL during the war, and I haven't been able to find him.
That's interesting. You ever been to Hammerfall Mines?
I have not.
Well, if you ever get a chance to go, I'd say take it. Hammerfall Mines is one of the most beautiful cities in the continent. Of course, I can't go back there, I'm banned from the place, but no matter on that. It's carved out of sandstone, lots of stonework. Beth Smith and the best masons are all from Hammerfall Mines.
Well, that would be a sight to see. I definitely need to go. Maybe I could get Niktor's opinion on the stonework, but I will take your words at heed.
Now let me tell you, the reason that the Smiths in Hammerfall Mines are the best in the continent is because of the Oathkeeper Cavaliers. They're the personal bodyguards of the nobles for House Ironhelm, but they ride big rot-gut lizards, big monstrous things. Well, they're weirdly shaped, but still covered with armor, and it takes a real quality smith to fit the plates around such weird beasts. Of course, smiths gotta keep something up their sleeve to make it distinguishable, but that's exactly why.
And he brings you over to the short sword that he was working on. You now notice that there's actually a groove down the middle, and it's almost like a giant U of a blade. It's actually hollow in the middle.
Now, here's another trick I was telling you about. If you take this sword here and you plunge it into an enemy, when it hits their body, it's all wet with blood and it's likely to stick, especially if you get it caught on a rib or something. If I hollow this out part here, it's going to create a gap, making it easier to pull out and, of course, put back into that foe a second time.
Garrick, that's ingenious. You think that would work on flesh and blood? It wouldn't give me much resistance?
Well, I'd tell you that I haven't tried it myself, but that would be a lie. Then again, on second thought, if the Tamir and other folks know what I'm doing in here, or where I came from, I might end up in jail. So no, Axel, I guess I haven't tried it, it's just a theory.
And he takes the short sword that he was working on and puts it back in the flames to continue working as he talks to you.
Fair enough, old friend. I appreciate the weapon you've smithed for me, and if anything else, and I'm going to kind of lean in shyly, and is there any way you could make me a handful of these for Niktor? I'll slip them into his bag and he won't know any difference, but I already have a well-smithed weapon for myself, and I can't see Democles or Manx using these, so if you want to experiment, use them out in the field, so to speak, I could get you some feedback, and I'd kind of give him a wink.
Are you talking about the javelins over there, or these knives I'm working on?
Axel would just gesture to the javelins.
Oh, sure, you might as well grab a handful of those. Make sure that you don't use them in the training yard, though. I'd be real pain in my ass if I had to straighten out a whole bunch of those tips.
Yeah, they were one and done. I get what you're laying down. No, Niktor's an ace with the accuracy, so don't sweat it.
You ever been in a siege before, Axel?
This is my first. I've learned a lot from Tobias, actually.
Tobias has been in a siege, eh? I wouldn't have guessed that. He seemed greener than summer grass. That being said, he does know his way around a weapon, and I haven't seen anybody with finer footwork at his age.
Yeah, he's got it. It's in his nature to move quick and, God, just exploit your weaknesses. Something to look up to.
Nothing moves fast in a siege, Axel. In this case, the goal is to just keep the enemy off the walls. We can wait out them longer than they can sit there, I'd wager. We just gotta keep 'em off. These walls are awfully pitiful, though, so we're not giving ourselves an easy task.
Yeah, Tobias is the master of deception and thinking his opponent can push in, but I don't know. I don't think I'm cut out for this.
Well, Sonny, I'll tell you that it ain't my first siege. After I lost my forge in Hammerfall Mines, I spent more than 20 years with the Sandstone Surveyors. Engineers for hire we were. You want to build a siege tower? Need some engineers for that. Want to dig under a tunnel wall and collapse it? Well, need some engineers for that too. Traveled all over the world with them surveyors, down to Valof, even as far as the princely realms. They're always fighting over something there. Sat in front of many different castle walls and towns and fortifications, figuring out how to get over 'em, under 'em, or through 'em.
Yeah, it's important to know what's worth spending time on and what's not. If you give us any hints or insights onto how to break a siege, please, I'm all ears.
Well, if I was to give you a piece of advice, Axel, this is what I'd say. All the drilling and training in the yard of these militia ain't gonna do diddly if those goblins get through. It's really just to make us feel productive and keep everybody calm and settled inside the city. With that many goblins, outnumbered as we are, if they get through, we're finished. And I've been eyeing the catapults that they're building. The pitiful walls we got, I bet, won't hold up to more than a few lobs from those things. So truthfully, Axel, I think we gotta find a way of getting rid of them siege engines.
So, Garrick, you're saying I should take to the high wall and protect the siege weapons?
We don't have any siege engines of our own, Axel. Although I was standing on the gatehouse the other day, watching the goblins build theirs, and I did take a look around, I do think that our gatehouse might be strong enough to hold a few small ballista types, if possible. What do you think about that there, Axel?
Garrick, if you needed time to build a siege weapon, just give me a number and I'll be glad to defend you. Me and my allies, we could build a defense around you and see what happens. It might be a Hail Mary.
What are you talking about there, Axel? I'm not talking defending me. I'm not that important. I'm meaning I think we could put a couple of winch ballistas up on the top of the gatehouse there. Heck, I'd bet you a gemstone to an anvil that they'd be strong enough. Couple of winch cranks for a ballista.
Whatever you need, just let me know and my people will keep you safe.
All right, Axel. Well, you think you could get a couple of days away from the drilling? I'm sure your mason skills would really help me anchor them into the top of the gatehouse, eh?
Oh, absolutely. That would be our number one priority.
Well, all right then, Axel. By Thaler's beard. It will take me about a week, but I think we can get a couple of them mounted ballistas up on the walls.
We need to make those gobos think twice about just trying to ransack our villages, kill our priests, and really drive them back. I'm gonna kind of grit my teeth as I say that.
You know, it's funny, Axel. I never would have thought I would have built another one of these machines. Yet here we are, building another one. By Thalor's beard.
You'll build Seafall up, and we will push these goblins back, and they'll regret ever attacking Seafall.
And so ends this episode of Legend of the Driftwood Crowned. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to talk to our players, join our Discord. If you're interested in learning more about the world of Belcar, check out our YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram pages. We'll see you in the next episode. And until then, waving at somebody who wasn't waving at you in public is a real life rolling a 1.